about the Big Ten is Nate Wells from SBNation. Nate, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's talk about the team that you are closest to in the Minnesota Gophers. Regular season champs last year, and yes, Fasching left early, but other than that, they do return a lot. Are they the favorite again?
I'd say so. Like you said, they're a team that won the regular season title without a senior, and they lose Hudson Fasching. It's always tough when you lose a 20 goal scorer, and it's tough when you lose a defenseman early like Michael Brodzinski, which they did. But they bring in the USHL leading scorer in Rem Pitlick. They bring in the US U18 captain Ryan Lindgren. Both these guys were top 3-round draft picks in this past draft. So it's not the sexiest team. Bring in this year, but it's a bit more of a blue collar team. But with who they bring back, yeah, I have to say they're still the favorite.
Absolutely, and goaltending, Shearhorn in net, he was fantastic last year. He'll be leading them as well again this year. But I want to change gears to Michigan. The CCM line, no more. They were a team that solely relied on their offense, and now that they've lost most of it, do you think they could bounce back?
If anyone can have him bounce back, it's Red Berenson. I mean, I don't know who would expect. Tyler Mott last year scored 32 goals. Zach Werenski is gone. They have to replace 5 of their top 6 scorers, their top 2 defensemen. Get some of those guys like an Alex Kyle or some of those freshmen turning into sophomores like Cooper Marody to kind of step up and take on the load and kind of be that Tyler Mott, JT Comper guys who just took that next step. Because they don't have a Kyle Connor, and there's not like a Dylan Larkin coming in this year.
Absolutely. Michigan's one of those teams, they just spit out pro talent, so I'm not too worried about them. But the Granato era has begun in Madison, Wisconsin. So plain and simple, will they be able to right the ship for the Badgers?
That's the big question. That's the $64,000 question in Madison. It's a lot more excitement since the Tony Granato era started. They've been hot on the recruiting trail. They brought in a couple of guys even since they took over in late March, early April that will play a role this year. But they do have guys. They have like a Luke Cunnin, who was a freshman last year, who scored It's a little bit of a shame he got overlooked by Kyle Connor because he scored 19 goals on that Wisconsin team that finished last. So you have like a guy like him to bringing in another first-round pick and Trent Frederick. They honestly might have one of the best, if not the best, recruiting classes in the Big Ten. So they'll have some talent, but it's a lot of young talent, and that's going to be the big challenge for the Granato and Wisconsin fans, just to be a little bit more patient. Good days are around the corner. I don't know if it's going to be this year though.
So speaking of good days, Penn State has gotten increasingly better since joining the Big Ten. They have been on the brink of a national tournament. What do you think it takes for them to get over that hump?
It's continue. It's a process. Kind of Guy Godowski knew going into it, starting up a program from scratch. You get to build it, and you get to put your stamp on it, but it's a process. This year is going to be interesting. They have to replace both their goaltenders with Matthew Scott graduating and Eamon McAdam signing early. They bring in a guy from one of the top goalies from the USHL, and Peyton Jones, and they have Chris Funke there. So it shouldn't be the biggest issue, but that's always a concern when you have to when you're trying to break in a freshman or an underclassman goalie. The big question is, it's just this is their 4th, 5th year of Division I, so it's who can step up and if they can continue to do that and kind of make that next step. They've gotten close. They started to challenge for that NCAA tournament berth last year. It's going to be a little bit more difficult this year, but we'll see if they can do it.
Yeah, hopefully this is the year for them. They did, like you mentioned, lose a lot of leadership. Now, finally, I want to touch on Ohio State and Michigan State. Now, when you look at Ohio State, you can't help but notice they do bring back a lot. Are people sleeping on the Buckeyes?
I think so, and I thought they'd be a little better than last year. They started off really slow. They were 2-8. They had a lot of 1-goal losses. They came up to Minneapolis and they lost 2 games in a row in overtime, and just somewhere there it turned the corner. They're 4th place in the Big Ten last year. They're only 3 points behind Penn State for that 3rd spot, so they weren't too far out of it. But like you said, they return a lot. They lose Anthony Greco, but they still have Nick Schilke, who's one of the top returning scorers in all the Big Ten. Mason Yupps was one of the top freshmen. He kind of found his own in the second half, and it was really a tale of two halves for the Ohio State team. If they can find some consistency, they should be able to kind of contend and get that third spot, and kind of be able to contend up there in the Big Ten.
Absolutely, they bring back some good goaltending in Christian Fry
Yeah,
as
and
well.
Christian Fry is a senior. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nate Wells from SB Nation talking Big Ten hockey. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate the time.